Dr. Kumaraswamy started saying with attack. No, there is no attack. Where is the attack? I started my talk with saying, yes, we agree to treat all. We cannot deny science, particularly when the START trial, HPO215 trial, both trials had India sites. All these trials were approved by NACO Ethical Committee, NACO Technical Resource Group, and that WENTAD and Health Ministry Screening Committee. So we cannot deny the results from multi-country trials, which happened in India also. So there is no denial. So where is the gap? I think some of the gaps have already been pointed by Dr. Vinay Kulkarni, who is not a program person. So we cannot say he's defending the program, and neither I am defending the program. It's never WHO guideline versus NACO guideline. It's never public versus private guidelines. Scientific evidence cannot be denied. WHO guidelines, yes, they say treat all. Very clearly, I showed you the slide from WHO itself. There has to be implemented in context of countries based on epidemics, programmatic consideration, and resources. I said in my talk in the beginning also 80-90 crores for treat all is not a big money for government of India. It is peanuts. So issue is not that it is resource, no programmatic considerations. The Secretary of National AIDS Control Organization himself attended the TRG, agreed to treat all. I presented to you the TRG recommendations. So where is the gap? Yes, where is the gap? Because when we say treat all, I think Vinay Kulkarni has already pointed out the 90-90-90 cascade. And the global coverage for ART, when 29 million need to be on ART, there are only 17 million on ART. India is 43%. Yes, globally it is 52%. It is behind, but we just moved to 500, so it will be parallel. We have 12.5 lakh people registered with NACO ART centers. Those who have been detected and registered with us. Out of them, 9.8 lakhs are already on treatment. Moving to 500, 1 lakh will be initiated, and treat all will be 1.15 lakhs. So that makes it 12.5. We have 21 lakh estimated. So we need to reach out to them. I presented this in my slide also, that we need to reach out, and Vinay Kulkarni has very rightly pointed out, we need to go to the community, do the community-based testing, maybe move on to think about self-testing, making HIV test nearer to people, residents, to all PHCs, all health facilities, and partner with private sector. Coming to newer drugs,
Dr. Ribari.
Just let me complete. I've just noted down the points.
No, we have a lot of questions on you.
Yeah?
No, because you're talking a lot, but we have a lot of questions.
Yeah. I'm just giving answer to some of the questions which have already been raised. And another question was patients presenting late. I think Vinay Kulkarni has already answered. I just went to the WHO slide which says the median CD4 count at presentation has now moved from 142 to 300. I'll give you India data. Our median CD4 count at presentation was 119 in 2007, and it is now 260 in male and 300 among females. Globally, everywhere people are being detected late, though earlier than what was earlier. So we are not very far behind in India in terms of presentation. Yes, there are late presentations. There are issues with service provision. Yes, we did talk about new drugs, efavirenz 400, dolutegravir, and TAF, and government is not behind. Already there was a meeting with the Secretary, NACO, with the Gilead people who are developing the new combination with TAF. Dolutegravir has been given a approval by Drug Controller General of India. Efavirenz 400 is still not manufactured, and these are in pipeline. Even the pipeline given by WHO guidelines is around 1 to 1.5 years that these drugs will become available. So overall, when we agree to treat all, basically it is reaching out to all and retaining them. So I don't think there is any difference or any difference of opinion between WHO, NACO, or Kumaraswamy and me and Vinay and others. We are open to questions.
For our national program, not putting on treatment? No, because you agree with science, and you agree with everything, what I said as well as in the WHO guideline, is only the cost?
Kumaraswamy, I just said in the beginning of my talk, I think you were there in the audience, and just now I said, it's not the cost. I never said it is 80 to 90 crores, it's not the cost. But the program and the government has guidelines for procurement. Procurement is an international competitive bidding, and that procurement takes time. That is why there is a phased implementation of the guidelines. There is always a delay between recommendation and implementation. That is just because of the programmatic considerations and procurement guidelines.
Now, as you know that, India supplies, is based on the Clinton Foundation's, data. India supplies, I think, 82% of ARVs to the whole world in lower and middle income countries, right, to Africa, everywhere. I was the last 4 months, I was in 5 African countries assisting their guidelines, putting everyone on treatment, even adapting dolutegravir. You know, they're all depending upon, you know, Indian manufacturers, which are all behind your door. So now, you know, even we have all the manufacturers here. Is procurement is a big issue for you?
No, it's not a big issue. We have never said that drugs are not available. Yes, India is supplying drugs. It is a matter of proud for India that we are supplying 89% of global ARV requirements in all developing countries and many of the PEPFAR projects in other countries also. There is a process. You have to put up a tender. There is a requirement of 45 days for this to be put up, and then there is a requirement of its bid opening. I think you have to understand the program also. There is a technical opening, there is a financial opening, there is approval, and then there is a 60 days lead time for suppliers to supply. So those are the timelines which are required. We cannot do away with those timelines, but the first time NACO has now said, we do it every year. Why every year? So this time that procurement has been put up is for 2 years, so that these delays are avoided.
So 45 days versus 3 years is a lot, right? You know, because 2013 guideline we are implementing now. So
if you go to the global site, the 500 guidelines implementation took 1.5 years to 2 years in many countries. No country moves immediately on that day, next day to the guideline.
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm trying to think about the future. We're all in agreement that probably dolutegravir is a better drug than efavirenz. I think, Kumar, you showed Dr. Walmsley's analysis. So if we have this long lag time, and if in fact it is Indian manufacturers who are likely going to be producing the dolutegravir TAF 3TC once daily, what can we begin to do now to ensure that that's available for a price which, at least they tell us, will be less than atripla?
All the newer drugs actually, as per regulations, require the trials in the country. But there is a mechanism whereby some experts, there is a meeting, there is a technical expert group at drug controller, whereby a waiver for clinical trial is given. You know, waiver for clinical trial is given in exceptional circumstances when it is a epidemic, it is a public health requirement, like it was given for Hep C drugs. There was no other drug. But like dolutegravir, it was a drug which was not very different as such from dolutegravir, but there was strong evidence of in terms of its robust response and less chances of failure. So there was an expert group constituted in which Kumaraswamy also came, and I was also a part. Though I didn't attend, I gave my comments on writing, and this drug has been given a clinical trial waiver. So we expect that these drugs like TAF, I already told you there was a meeting with the Secretary of National AIDS Control Organization with Gilead people, and once they're ready, they themselves gave a timeline of 1 year that bringing TAF with combination may take 1 year. So as these drugs are become available, the clinical trial waivers are granted in India, because it's not only for India, it's for many other countries also.
Good morning, sir. Sir, our screening program are showing very good results, like PMT-CT, STI and everything. And late presentation is always an issue. So are we planning to extend our screening program from PMT-CT, STI and TB to some other extent, so we can detect people early and we can pull them into our HIV care?
Can you test everybody? Can you test 110 crores? And what does this tell you? This only tells you your HIV status as of today. It is not a cost-effective strategy to test everybody, everyone in the country. It's not feasible and is not practical. Yes, we have to focus on where the infection is coming from. There is a concept of provider-initiated testing and counseling. Basically, a high index of suspicion among physicians have to be there, because we have seen delayed presentation and missed opportunities, at least 1 or 2 missed opportunities where the person had TB or herpes or some other infection and it has been basically missed. So definitely we need to have a focused training which may be provider initiated. All STI patients already are offered testing, all TB patients, all pregnant breastfeeding women are already offered testing. Key populations also we offer, but we cannot make it mandatory for anyone.
Just to answer this, this can be done only by doing certain modeling exercise. I think I showed one slide on that. So right now, in collaboration with the NACO, with Rivari, WHO, and our group, and as well as the Harvard group, is doing a lot of such modeling. One is on testing, And on viral load, we have already done and shown to them how it will be cost effective, and even dolutegravir, which will be presenting at CROI if it has been accepted. These are, I think, modeling exercise will help to drive this type of questions. Otherwise, it's very hard to say. Coming to the retesting, I think in that model we said every 5 years of national population and in key population every year, and high prevalent districts in India in every year will be cost effective. This is something our model shows.
Yeah, Dr. Rewari, is there something like, we are seeing so many young girls now testing for their pregnancies almost at home. Is there something like a self-testing program which would be promoted, which could be linked to ICTCs then when someone finds it, because it may not be a confirmatory diagnosis, but making it available in the country?
Yes, you are right. This offers an opportunity because there's a lot of problem in going to a center, getting test result and associated issue of confidentiality. WHO has approved self-testing, and the self-testing guidelines are just now ready, and we got an email yesterday only that these are now being published. Definitely, as the guidelines come in, we'll move on to those guidelines.
First of all, thank you everyone for the beautiful presentation and bringing so much information. All the presentations had a mention about the private sector integration into giving the services to the community. Could any one of you, Dr. Kulkarni, Dr. Oman, or Dr. Kumar Same, talk more about how to engage the private sector lucratively such that it's also business oriented for them, because it's always about business in the private sector. And in a city like Mumbai, where the structure is very unregulated and also very complicated, and there are so many GPs in the urban slum areas, can you give us some 3-4 nodal points on how to get it started, how to go to the community, to the private sector?
There are a couple of things. Private sector in India, unfortunately, has been linked with a lot of profit making. And services, there would be a lot of non-adherence if there is too much of cost involved in that. So I have always said, even in the discussions, that in India, there are 3 types of things. There is something called as a private sector. There is something like a not-for-profit private sector, which could be NGOs. And then there is a public sector. And there is a lot of scope of collaboration between the program and the not-for-profit private sector. And I think majority of our NGOs have been, my colleague in the morning said, we are providing second-line treatment, third-line treatment at subsidized cost. So there is something like that which could be possible not-for-profit.
We appreciate the private sector started ART in India much before the public sector. But over the time, because of long-term, lifelong treatment and the cost, public sector has got almost 9.8 lakh patients, while our estimates show around 50,000 patients in the private sector. But nevertheless, there are some of the top practitioners in the private sector who follow a very good regulated regimen. There were issues with the prescription of second line as first line regimen in 2008-9, if you remember, and we had a lot of issues with the private practitioners starting on a PI-based regimen when the recommendation of WHO was an PI-based regimen, and we had to go to Supreme Court to regulate that. But anyway, now the situation is different. As Dr. Padare was saying, the regimen followed across public-private sector are the same. NACO has got 18 private public center ART centers, whereby more than 10,000 patients, 12,000 patients get treatment. With the NGO sector, with private medical colleges, even private practitioner. We are now coming up with a new model whereby even single, not clinic-based private practitioners who don't have a hospital, others will also be partnering with NACO. And first week of November, NACO is holding a consultation on involvement of private sector into antiretroviral treatment program as a one program. We always say 9.8 lakh patient. Why not these 50,000 should also be NACO patient? And why not 9.8 should be it should be one figure that we are coming up. So November we are having a consultation on supported by WHO on involving private sector.
This will be the last question.
I would ask Dr. Rewari one or maybe 2 questions. One is this fixed dose combination of efavirenz, TAF, and emtricitabine. The dose recommendation is 400 efavirenz. Now, all the standard recommendation of efavirenz for an adult over 40 kilos of body weight is 600 milligrams. Now, first point is this going to cause any resistance problems in the long run? Second is TAF dose. What is the dose which you are going to put? in that tablet? Because TAF dose is a controversial subject. Can you please elaborate on this?
Efavirenz 400 milligram is being recommended for all body weights. Even those who have got more than 60, it will be 400 milligram recommendation. And TAF is 30 milligram as compared to 300 milligram TDF. But again, both of these are still in development. First thing, individual drugs. Anyway, Efavirenz 400 will not be a problem. We have 200 and 600. So making 400 is not a problem. TAF is still in development and approval even by US FDA. And then there is a need to have fixed dose combination. There need to be TAF with emtricitabine or lamivudine with efavirenz 400 milligram. So all these, we expect at WHO also that these should become by available of Q3 of 2017, Q2 and Q3 of 2017. And once these are available, naturally then there will be issue of production capacity of the pharmaceuticals. If you are going to shift all 17 million from TDF, efavirenz 600 to TAF, efavirenz 400, or going to initiate new patient on the new drugs, that is always a issue. Even when we shifted to tenofovir single pill in India, issue was the capacity. Only 3 manufacturers are making it, but now everyone, all 8 companies manufacture. So it is the future. It is in pipeline, definitely.
Does it mean that you're going to discontinue efavirenz 600?
Can you repeat?
Are you going to discontinue efavirenz 600?
You know, when we moved to tenofovir, efavirenz, lamivudine combination, there were patients who were doing well on zidovudine, lamivudine, nevirapine. We never discontinued them. So this call will have to be taken on individual patient also, whether they have side effects or not. All change of drugs in stable patients have 2 considerations. Either they are failing, not responding adequately, or they have toxicity. If they have no toxicity to efavirenz, there are no side effects, why should we change?
I think 600. And also in TB patients, the rifampicin, you have to give 600. If you're giving dolutegravir,
Those at one point,
yeah, then you have to
for
double the
TB
dose.
patient, even 800 was recommended. So that was for a short time. But then when you're manufacturing these tablets for NACO, for example, or AIT centers, will you make 400 tablets as well as 600 tablets?
Last question that we take, please.
Sir,
We are running out of time. So
let it be available. We don't have 400 milligram as of now, or neither the TAF. So this question is, yes, it is a question, but once these things are available, and our concern is fixed dose combination. If I have TAF separately, lamivudine separately, and efavirenz separately 400, I would not prefer to use that unless I have a fixed dose combination. There is a big advantage with a fixed dose combination, single pill, in terms of compliance, adherence, monitoring, supply chain, toxicity. So if you have 3 drugs to be taken and 1 tablet to be taken, we all know that. Why we went to FDC?
One short question. Is there any study on 400 efavirenz and 600 efavirenz?
sir, this will be the last question, please. We are running out of time. We ask you to please wrap up.
Can I finish this
Thank
question?
Just to say, 8 to 12% of our patients have initial side effects with efavirenz. When we changed to efavirenz first line, there were a lot of problems from PLHIV. But most of these patients stabilize after 3 weeks to 4 weeks. In the national program, I can say only 1% of patients had to change their efavirenz 600 because of its CNS side effects.
Sir, in the interest of time,
Question.
I think we'll have to conclude this session. For all those delegates who would still like to put in a question, you could go to our app and you could tap on agenda, then tap on the speaker, and there's a section on comments, which we will pass it on to our regular speakers. We'll make it a point to get back to you too.
Thank you, speakers,
so
for
much.
the wonderful talk. We would like to felicitate the speakers for their talk. Dr. Pazare, I request Dr. George